Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we are starting with a number that, frankly, if you only follow the mainstream news cycle, shouldn't exist.
It really shouldn't.
We're told constantly that the future is progressive. We are told that demographics are destiny and that the arc of history, it bends inevitably toward a specific brand of left-wing liberalism.
But the data is telling a very, very different story.
And we've got a piece of data here that suggests the exact opposite is happening.
It doesn't just suggest it, it screams it. We're looking at a massive Pew Research study regarding political affiliation. And the number that is keeping sociologists up at night is 58%.
58%, that's the percentage of men aged 18 to 24 who now identify as conservative or right-leaning. That's a massive majority.
It's a seismic shift. If you compare that to millennials at the same age, or even Gen X, it's a total inversion. We are not seeing a drift here. This is a hard pivot.
Yeah.
It's the kind of statistical anomaly that suggests the cultural pendulum isn't just swinging back. It feels like it's being ripped off the wall.
And that is exactly what we're here to figure out today. Why is this happening? And maybe more importantly, what does it mean for the future of our institutions?
Right.
But before we get into the why and the how, I need to ask you a favor. If you enjoy these deep dives where we explore, the forbidden corners of cultural analysis, the stuff the algorithm usually tries to bury, please like and subscribe to the show right now.
It really does help.
It helps us keep the lights on and keep us in your feed.
Absolutely. Support independent analysis. It matters now more than ever.
So today we are unpacking a source that claims to have the answer key to this shift. It's a book called Zoomerwaffen, Unapologetically Traditionalist Generation Z by Conrad Riker.
And this is not just some dry sociology textbook.
No. Riker frames this as a manual, a survival guide for understanding the modern male experience.
It is a very provocative text. He argues that if you want to understand why your son, your brother, or maybe even you yourself feel completely alienated by modern institutions, this book is the blueprint.
He says young men aren't just drifting, right? They're forming a silent rebellion.
He calls it an immune response.
An immune response, right?
Exactly. He uses this biological metaphor throughout the entire book. He argues that when a societal body becomes sick with ideology, the population develops an immune response to fight the infection. And he claims this generation of men is that response.
A response against institutions that have been captured by feminist and Marxist ideology.
That's his argument.
It's a fascinating premise. And look, if you want the full manual, you need to go to Amazon Kindle or Google Play Books right now and buy Zoomerwaffen by Conrad Riker. We can only cover so much in our time here, so go get the source material.
And definitely follow the author. He's on Substack at Conrad Riker. He's publishing updates there that track these trends in real time.
So let's get into it. To understand this immune response, Riker says we first have to understand the disease.
Right. And he starts his analysis with a concept he calls the betrayal stack.
The betrayal stack. Okay, that sounds ominous. Let's unpack that. What exactly is it?
So the betrayal stack is Riker's framework for analyzing the environment that young men are navigating today. He argues it's not just bad luck that men are struggling, it's a vertical stack of collusion.
Yeah.
You have education at the bottom, media in the middle, and law at the top. And his argument is that all three have aligned to punish male autonomy and reward compliance with a specific ideological framework.
The book illustrates this with a really striking anecdote about a software engineer in Austin. This is what really grounded the concept for me.
The 22-year-old.
Yeah, a classic Zoomer. He lands a great job at a tech firm. He thinks, okay, I'm here to write code. That's my job. That's my value.
Right. And according to the book, his code was flawless. He was a high performer, technically. Then he gets fired.
And the reason wasn't incompetence.
No, it was non-compliance.
He refused to participate in emotional healing workshops run by HR. Is that right?
Yeah. The book details this interaction vividly. HR was running these mandatory sessions on toxic masculinity detoxing. And this engineer, he just pushes back.
And he says what?
He tells them, this is a direct quote, "I solve problems with logic, not emotional vulnerability frameworks."
Which, for an engineer, seems like a pretty reasonable stance. You want your bridge built by logic, not feelings. If the code compiles, the computer doesn't care.
Riker points out that in the old world, the meritocracy, that answer would be fine. It might even be praised. But in the betrayal stack, that answer is a threat. He was fired for resisting emotional vulnerability.
That is. Well, it's dystopian. It sounds like something out of a satire. But Riker claims this is happening everywhere.
It's the moment the mask slips. Riker argues that for millions of young men, they grew up believing the lie. Work hard, get good grades, be competent, and you will succeed.
But then they hit the workforce.
And they realize that competence is secondary. Compliance with the ideology is primary.
Riker uses a pretty harsh term for this new structure. He calls it a gynocentric pyramid scheme.
It is harsh, but we need to define gynocentrism here because Riker uses it very specifically.
Go on.
It doesn't just mean women exist. It refers to a society that is structured entirely around the needs, safety, and consensus-building styles of women. He argues that the current hierarchy is designed to reward female social strategies, consensus, emotional language, safetyism, while actively penalizing male strategies.
Like risk-taking, stoicism, and confrontational logic.
Exactly. And this penalization isn't subtle. The book moves from the workplace to the university, and the story of the Yale student, I mean, that one really made my blood boil.
Philosophy student, right.
Yeah.
A 4.0 GPA student. He circulates a petition. He's not being rude. He's just asking a question. He challenges the Department of Philosophy's new hiring quotas.
He's basically asking, why are we hiring based on lived experience rather than logical rigor in a department that teaches Plato and Kant?
In a sane world, that's a valid academic inquiry.
Apparently not at Yale. He wasn't debated. He wasn't pulled aside for a chat.
He was expelled.
And the language they use is key here. The administration called him a threat to inclusive epistemic communities.
Inclusive epistemic communities. Okay, that's a mouthful. Break that down for someone who doesn't speak academic woke.
Epistemic relates to epistemology, the study of knowledge. How do we know what is true? They're basically saying that his reliance on objective logic, on Western rationality, was a threat to their community of subjective truth or lived experience.
Well, the smoking gun was the internal emails he leaked.
Oh yeah, from the diversity officers. They were celebrating his expulsion. They explicitly called it a victory against white cis hetero rationality.
So rationality itself, the ability to think clearly and logically, is being framed as the enemy.
According to Riker sources, yes. And this brings us to the core of the book's analysis of institutions, the woke cathedral.
The woke cathedral, it sounds like a sci-fi villain lair. Where does that term come from?
It's a term often used in neo-reactionary thought. It refers to the decentralized consensus between universities, the media, and government bureaucracy. There's no central leader, no pope of the cathedral, but they all preach the same religion.
And Riker's argument is that this religion is at war with logic itself.
Absolutely. There's this incredible example of the Discord debate. It started with a university quiz question. Is math patriarchal?
I wish that were a joke.
It wasn't. The university's official stance was that math objective right and wrong answers can be oppressive because it doesn't allow for multiple ways of knowing.
Wow.
But this is where we see the Zoomerwaffen beginning to form. The Gen Z guys on this Discord server didn't just get mad and yell slurs, they actually dissected the argument.
They used logic.
They treated the claim math is patriarchal as a symptom of epistemological rot. They used memes, yes, but they also used rigorous logic to trace the fallacy back to its root. They basically proved that if you reject objective math, you reject the ability to build a functioning bridge or code a computer.
They didn't just win the argument, they humiliated the premise.
But the institutions fight back dirty. The book claims Harvard is ground zero for what he calls the gynocentric presumption. Yeah, Riker cites data showing Harvard has disciplined more male students for speech violations than any other Ivy since 2015. The gynocentric presumption flips the legal standard. Instead of innocent until proven guilty, it's guilty until proven inconvenient.
So if a woman feels unsafe, that feeling is treated as actual evidence of a man's aggression.
That's the idea. And Title IX is the weapon of choice. The book details emails advising students to use Title IX not just for actual assault, which is what it should be for, but to suppress male dissent.
It's weaponized administrative warfare.
Right. And it even reaches into the hard sciences. There was the sociology PhD candidate.
The one looking at emotional intelligence.
Yes. He found data showing no statistical difference in EQ between the sexes. This, contradicts the popular narrative that women are naturally more emotionally intelligent.
And his advisor told him to burn the paper.
He called it academic hygiene. He said, if you publish this, you will never get tenure. So the truth is scrubbed because it's politically dirty.
So, okay, let's look at the situation. You're a young man, the university hates your logic, HR wants to detox your personality. Naturally, you look for an escape. You look for a partner.
A relationship, yeah.
And this brings us to the opt-out and the dating market.
This section is brutal. Riker describes apps like Bumble and Hinge as Skinner boxes.
A Skinner box is a conditioning chamber, right? Like for lab rats.
Exactly. You press a lever, you get a pellet, or sometimes you get a shock. Riker argues these apps are designed to keep men in a state of desperation. The stats he pulls are staggering. Men initiate 76% of conversations.
76%. And women.
Riker calls their state passive harvest mode. They simply sit back and filter the abundance. This leads right into his discussion on hypergamy.
Now, define hypergamy for us, because that word gets thrown around a lot in the manosphere, but Riker has a specific definition.
In this context, Riker defines hypergamy as the biological drive for women to date up or across the hierarchy. They want a partner who is higher status, taller, wealthier.
And Riker's point isn't just that this exists.
No, it's that society celebrates this as empowerment. A woman demanding a man making six figures is knowing her worth.
But if a man demands a fit, cooperative wife,
Well, that's the male gaze, and it's misogynistic, it's controlling. The book uses a great example from TikTok, the trend where women demand a provider man who pays all the bills, but also does half the housework.
right, trad wife or drad hypocrite, I think was a phrase Riker used.
Exactly. It highlights the double standard. You want the traditional provision, the man as protector and provider, but you want modern liberation from any traditional duties yourself. Riker just argues the math doesn't work. It's a bad deal.
And because it's a bad deal, men are walking away. This is where MGTOW comes in. Men going their own way.
And the media usually paints these guys as incels, angry losers in basements who can't get a date. Riker flips that entirely.
He says it's not about that.
He argues the male exodus is financial realism. They aren't checking out because they can't get girls. They're checking out because they've done the cost-benefit analysis and realized the juice isn't worth the squeeze.
Right. They look at divorce courts, they look at alimony laws, they realize marriage is a legal trap where the state can strip you of your assets based on no-fault divorce.
So they opt out. They live with their parents not because they're lazy, but to starve the rental market. It's a form of economic protest.
There's a quote in this chapter that really stuck with me.
I think I know the one.
They're not angry because they lost, they're angry because they were lied to.
That's the emotional core of it. They played by the rules, be nice, be vulnerable, be an ally, and they got crushed. So now they are checking out of the betrayal stack.
And this is the crucial pivot in the book. They aren't just giving up.
No, they are building something new underground.
The intellectual underground. This is the part that actually gives me some hope.
It should. Riker details how Gen Z men are rejecting the formal education system, which they see as compromised, and attending the true university of the internet. We're talking Discord servers, Rumble channels, Telegram groups.
And they aren't just sharing memes, they're studying the trivium.
The trivium. This is the classical framework of education. Grammar, logic, and rhetoric. It's how people learned to think for 1,000 years before the modern system took over.
So why, I go back to that, why are 19-year-olds studying medieval logic?
Because it's the ultimate defense against gaslighting. Riker argues that modern ideology relies on linguistic manipulation. If you understand logic, how to construct a valid argument, and rhetoric, how to persuade, you can dismantle a feminist syllogism in seconds. You can spot the fallacy.
And the reading list these guys have is intense. Schopenhauer, Nietzsche, Marcus Aurelius. These are 18-year-olds reading dense philosophy.
But they aren't reading it for a grade. Riker calls it armor. They are using what he calls new stoicism. Not to suppress their emotions, but to refuse to be emotionally blackmailed.
Right. The culture weaponizes tears. If someone cries, they win the argument. That's the rule of the woke cathedral.
Correct. The new Stoic says, your tears are not my command. They refuse to let someone else's emotional state dictate their logical reality.
And they use humor as a scalpel. This is the woke bingo concept the book mentions.
Woke bingo is brilliant. It's a mental framework. When they hear buzzwords like lived experience, centering voices, or heteronormativity, they don't get angry. They treat it like a game.
They mark the card.
Yeah. Riker says this use of irony allows them to expose the absurdity of the woke cathedral without getting dragged into an emotional fight. You can't shame someone who is laughing at you.
It effectively neutralizes the shaming tactics. If you call them a name and they just laugh and make a meme out of it, you have no power over them.
Precisely.
So we have the betrayal, the opt-out, and the armoring. And this leads us to the title of the book, Zoomerwaffen.
It's a militaristic title,
Yeah.
and that's intentional. It sounds aggressive. Riker describes these men as a weaponized generation. They are unapologetically traditionalist.
And this brings us back to that immune system concept we touched on at the start.
Riker argues that civilizations are like biological organisms. When they get too sick, too decadent, too detached from reality, the body triggers a fever to kill the virus.
And Riker claims this right-wing traditionalist shift in Gen Z men is the West's immune system activating against the virus of gynocentrism and nihilism.
That's the argument. A fever rising to save the patient.
And it's not just online anymore. The book talks about a return to physicality.
Yes, the intellectual underground is moving into the real world. We are seeing a surge in fight clubs, welding classes, shooting ranges. Riker mentions meeting 19-year-olds who can strip an AR-15 blindfolded and then quote Marcus Aurelius from memory.
The philosopher king archetype coming back to life.
It's the reintegration of mind and body. The media calls it toxic masculinity. But Riker argues these men see masculinity as a force to be unleashed. They believe it's constructive, protective, and essential for survival.
They are becoming dangerous, but in a controlled, disciplined way.
Exactly. But here is the kicker, and why the establishment is so scared. They aren't protesting. They aren't marching on Washington with pink hats.
No. They view protests as a leftist tactic. Protesting is begging the master for a crumb. It's asking Daddy State to change the rules.
Right. Riker says these men are withdrawing to build parallel institutions. They want to become invincible through self-mastery.
If you can grow your own food, code your own software, and protect your own family, the woke cathedral has no power over you.
Indifference is the ultimate rebellion. You can't cancel people who don't care about your approval and don't need your jobs.
Wow. So let's recap this journey. We saw the betrayal stack, where institutions turned against young men. We saw the woke cathedral waging war on logic. We saw men opting out of the rigged dating market. And finally, we see them arming themselves with the trivium and becoming the Zoomerwaffen.
The immune system of the West. It's a fundamental realignment of the social contract. We are watching the formation of a counter-civilization in real time.
Riker ends the book with a very specific thought about the future. He says the future belongs to the quiet truth tellers.
That is the ultimate takeaway. In an age of performative empathy and enforced delusion, simply telling the truth, saying that 2 + 2 = 4, or that men and women are different, becomes a revolutionary act.
He's telling these young men, you are not crazy. You are the remnant, and you are the future.
It's a powerful message.
Look, if you've felt like you're the only one noticing the cracks in the facade, if you've been nodding along to this and thinking, finally someone said it, you owe it to yourself to read the source code of this movement. I'm going to tell you again. Go to Amazon Kindle or Google Play Books and buy Zoomerwaffen by Conrad Riker. It's not just a book, it's a manual for what's coming next.
And don't forget to follow him for the ongoing analysis. That's at Conrad Riker on Substack. The conversation there is just as important as the book itself.
This has been a heavy one, but a necessary one. We are watching history shift in real time. If you want us to keep diving deep into these topics that the mainstream media is too afraid to touch, you know what to do.
Like and subscribe.
Like and subscribe to the show. Join the resistance. We'll see you in the next deep dive.
Stay awake.